This is Straight Talk with Atlanta native Greg Penn, the Preacher Man, and his sidekick Shannon Jones. Frank discussions of issues affecting the ATL, Fulton County, the state of Georgia, the nation, and around the world. And now, here they are, live and in...
Well, welcome tonight to Straight Talk with George Trudy Greg Fan, the Preacher Man. Listen, we got an exciting program tonight. Boy, we're going to be talking about a lot of things tonight that you want to hear, you need to hear. And don't you go nowhere. Miss C going to come on with our news and information. And I'll see you on the other side with Bishop Rollin Tate, our producer, along with Ronald Allen and myself. And we're going to talk about what's really going on, the war. This being war, we're going to have war. We're going to talk about war and why we having these wars, all of three or four wars that we're in. And we'll see you on the other side. Miss C, man.
Hi, Miss C here with your 3-minute news blast, or more or less. Hope you're doing well. Listen, on April the 16th from 10 to 1, the HUD VASH program, in partnership with Councilman Antonio Lewis and the Goodwill, will host a job fair at the Roselle Fan Recreation Center, 365 Cleveland Avenue in Southeast Atlanta. There will also be community partners available to assist veterans and their families. Top industry leaders will be there representing warehousing, construction, security, management, and more. Participants will also have access to haircuts and professional dress wear and transportation. And the pickup sites will be from the Fort McPherson Lakewood train station. For more information, contact Andre Foster at 404-203-1668. That's 404-203-1668. Or you can reach Andre by email at andre.foster@va.gov. That's andre.foster@va.gov. Providence Baptist Church is celebrating its 143rd anniversary, April 26 at 9 a.m. with guest preacher Reverend Jasper Williams of Salem Bible Church of Atlanta. Providence Baptist is located at 1773 Hawthorne Avenue in College Park. Reverend Charles E. Nesbitt Jr. is pastor. Morning Star Missionary Baptist Church at 408 Dorothy Evans Avenue in Selma, Alabama, invites you to the first pastoral appreciation honoring the faithful leadership, love, and service of Pastor Kelvin Cockrell Sr. and Sister Vicky Cockrell on Sunday, April 12th at 10:45 a.m. and 2 p.m. The guest speakers include Pastor David Roseman at 10:45 a.m. and Pastor Samuel Ezel at 2 p.m. Now listen, there are 4 things I'd like for you to do before we leave. I'd like for you to like us. I'd like for you to subscribe to us, and those little buttons are right there on the front. And I'd like for you to leave a comment. Let us know how we're doing and share us. Don't keep Straight Talk News to yourself. Let everybody know what you know about Straight Talk News, okay? And if you'd like for us to announce your events, just send it in to us. Email it to straighttalknews1362@gmail.com. That's straighttalknews1362@gmail.com. And listen, I have a little quip that I want you to remember. Be wise as a serpent, but be harmless as a dove. And I'm going to leave that with you today, okay? And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Trudy Greg Fan, the Preacher Man, and my producer and Ronald Allen, the producer, Bishop Rollin Tate and Ronald Allen. And Shannon is doing the 7 last words. So we're going to do some last words. So we're going to do some more words. So but here it probably won't be the last word. Won't be the last time you hear from us, because we got a lot to say right here on Straight Talk. Hey, brothers, how y'all doing today?
Great, Bishop. How about yourself?
I'm doing wonderful, How about you, Ron?
Doing really well, Bishop. Glad to be here tonight.
All right, I'm glad to have you. I'm glad to have both of you all. Pam Bundy been fired. Pam Bundy been fired. Pam Bundy been Her and Christie. Oh, the two ladies been fired. They've been fired. What y'all got to say about that firing?
Well, we going into the instability now. Trump was able to stack his administration with a group of cronies. They spent money recklessly. They've come up with policies that are indefensible, that we're paying the price for at the gas pump, that we're paying the price for in our utilities at the grocery store. So now the question becomes, who is he going to replace Pam Bundy with? Who's going to be our next attorney general? Will they continue the pattern of representing the interests of the president over representing the interests of us citizens of the United States? So we're going down a road now in which Trump is going to be continuing to consolidate his authority, if it all holds the way it's been going, with him continuing to appoint people who are running his program of kleptocracy, as opposed to doing any revisions that are going to help us get out this war, going to help us prosecute the Epstein Trump files, or anything related to justice, peace, or equality.
All right. What you got to say there, Reverend?
Well, I want to answer Ron's question. I think we will see the same. It won't change. Trump's agenda is the same. I think he does have issues with women. They don't get enough, as much leeway as men would have. So I'm pretty sure that these two positions will be filled by men. And he's going to continue with the same policy, the same antics. And let's just hope that the courts will continue to keep whatever he tries to do in check. Because those two ladies did try to advance his agenda. However, the courts, they are the ones that said, no, you cannot do this.
Well, one of the things, the guy, her deputy he's already said her deputy is going to be replaced under the interim part of it. And he's the one who defended him too in one of his trials. So it's going to be the same old, really, in my mind and opinion. It's going to be the same old. Now it's ironic though that after he had went before the Supreme Court and tried to deal with the issue of citizenship, and hearing the Supreme Court judges then arguing that pretty much this is not making any sense. In terms of citizenship, what the Constitution says, you're trying to rewrite the Constitution based on your executive orders, and we finna put a stop to this, because when you talk about citizenship, if a person is naturally born in the United States of America, according to the Constitution, they are citizens of this country. So you can't come up with some rules or regulations to say they cannot. And he got upset and got mad. And next thing we know, even though Pam didn't, the Attorney General, John, I believe his name is John something, that he got a Russian voice, even though he was one of the ones that helped Trump too with his legal cases and stuff like that. But he fired Pam. He fired Pam, his girl, who said he's doing a great job. He's the best president that ever was in the United States of America. She upheld him in all of his wrongness, even the Epstein file.
The interesting thing about Trump's desire to eliminate birthright citizenship and eliminate the 14th Amendment or rewrite the 14th Amendment, I really question for constitutional scholars here in Atlanta and throughout the country. Well, what will be white people's claim to citizenship? There is no race-based claim to citizenship in the U.S. Constitution. The 14th Amendment essentially defined birthright citizenship for all Americans. So whereas on the top level, we may look at this attempt to railroad the abolition of birthright citizenship through the Supreme Court, and also through his executive order, to eliminate it as an attack on illegal immigrants. But every single American constitutionally defines our citizenship through birthright. There isn't any other clause, there isn't any other mechanism in our Constitution that guarantees citizenship. So when we continue to analyze the impacts of the lack of citizenship only on black and brown people if the 14th Amendment is rescinded. That's the reason why we need to keep a race-based critique of these actions squarely in our purview, because we continue to grandfather white citizenship in this country if the 14th Amendment is rescinded, but they will have a zero legal claim to any citizenship, just like every other American. So I do ask us, why do we question or refuse to question what will be white people's citizenship in this country if Trump is successful? Because are we so ingrained through white supremacy that we make no application of Trump's tyranny, of the federal government's dereliction of duty on the white population, and we just consistently focus the victimization of government overreach on black and brown populations? And I think that's something that is leading us down the wrong path. And it may be the dissolution of our citizenship in general.
Well, I thank you for you saying all of that, because the reality of it is that when you look at it, and when we talk about citizenship, naturally born citizens in this country, if you look at the ethnicity of those individuals that came here, now the Anglo-Saxons who came from Europe, who came from these other countries that are now here, that are now naturally born citizens. So you have to deal with even his own son, Barron, and because he himself, his own citizenship should become in question because of his lineage, his family lineage. So when you start dealing in citizenship and who's natural and who's not, and how you're trying to divide who should not be a citizen. So to prohibit them from, the bottom line is voting, right? The bottom line is voting. That's all it is. People keep talking about voting don't matter. If it didn't matter, why they going through all these changes to try to come up with rules to change everything to keep people from voting, because the power is in the vote. Right. The power is in the vote. You take the vote away, you take the power away. That's the only power that American citizens truly have, is their vote. And if you do not vote, then you've given away your power. You've given away your power. So that's why I come out on that, because when I heard that and I saw that his Supreme Court judges that he appointed are going against him, but Clarence Thomas and and the rest of them, Clarence Thomas, he done drunk the Kool-Aid and the tea and the coffee, the bourbon, the gin.
Kavanaugh too. Kavanaugh too. Yeah. When you start going into the alcohol, he drinking it too.
Yeah. But Kavanaugh, Kavanaugh asked a very pertinent question that dug into disagreement with the attorney who was trying to argue about citizenship. So Kavanaugh is not with him on this one. He's not with him on this one. So this is telling, it's a pushback, and I think a part of this is the judges are tired of him attacking judges. He continues to attack these judges, and everyone who rules against him, then he wants to impeach them. And then you have those Republicans who are maggots. I'm gonna say maggots, the way y'all call them, whatever they are. Maggots, for some concern. They go along with him to impeach these judges.
Well, I haven't heard. Excuse me, Bishop.
Go down.
I haven't heard him say anything about impeaching judges. That's interesting. But I'm just open. I would just like to get the final vote, because you just don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I don't trust Trump, nor do I trust any of the Republicans who's supposed to be making these decisions. What we see, and when they finally make their decision, that's when I'll be comfortable. I didn't think that a president would get immunity, and we were surprised that they had these clauses in there. And I don't want to see any citizenship clauses that would pertain to a certain ethnic group. Whereas, as Ron asked, well, what happened to the whites? And for some way they will be excluded. So I just want to see the vote come, and I'll just hold my judgment until then.
And we also got to consider the backdrop of war. We're in the early part of war. We're continuing to see the president and his administration speak on both sides of the conflict. One day we're winning the war in the first hour. In the next hour, we have to bomb them back to the Stone Age where they belong, according to President Trump in his last nationwide address. If this war takes a turn, if Iran proves to be effective in holding their ground and keeping the Strait of Hormuz closed and disrupting the global chain of production, what will America's response be if gas prices continue to increase throughout the summer? Will that trigger in an increase in patriotism, an increase in nationalism, where we automatically cede more authority to the president so we can give him more war powers in the feigned belief that that will speed up the likelihood of us winning the war, achieving our outcomes, so Trump will have the motivation to pull out? Or will we continue, or as opposed to continue, will we develop a stronger resistance to the Trump regime and band together as citizens and be an effective check and balance on his unilateral pursuit of his agenda? I am more likely to believe that America will drift toward increased nationalism and increased desire to see America win this war. The wartime economy traditionally is viewed as being something that can get us out of a potential recession, which many economists are now warning that we could be headed toward the longer this war goes. So it's just so many elements that Trump still has within his hand to continue to distort the facts and provide Americans with fake reasons to jump on his campaign.
Well, did you want to say something on that, Rollins, before I make my comment?
Okay. I think that Trump will continue to be on both sides of the fence. Whatever comes to his mind, if he thinks that what the market wants to hear, he will say that. Because his focus is that I don't want the economy to go bad, because that's who I am. Therefore, don't believe what your eyes see. Everything that comes out of Iran is propaganda. We are winning. We can stop it in a week if we want to. And all that is going to the market. So the market will hear that. So even if we're not winning, the message will be that we're winning. And the Republicans will be on board because they need his endorsement for the midterm. So I don't think that the Republicans will be a barometer of what's going on. We'll have to steadfast and believe what we've seen, not what we're going to hear, and vote accordingly. Gas prices will continue to rise. And when they continue to rise, this is just the casualty of a war. Because if we had not done this, Iran had these ballistic missiles. We understand that could reach Europe now. So this is just a blip for your safety. And so everything it's covered with national security. That's how we got immigration. That's where we are today because of national security. Tariffs were wrapped around national security. So if I feel that I'm not safe, then this is a small price to pay so we can have national security. And that message will go on throughout the midterms.
Well, let me just say this to you. If it's so true, and I'm going back to what you said in terms of believing what you see and not what you hear. Believing what you see and not what you hear, because gas prices up, food prices up, all these things are up, and instead of going up and up and up. But you mentioned something about Europe. Europe is not, the European nations are not getting involved in this war. If this war was so bad and was going to affect them so bad, don't you think that they would be jumping on board to want to be in the war against Iran? I mean, don't you think that they have a vested interest in this war? They want to be a part of it, but they say they want to be a part of it. They want to have nothing to do with it. You can't get the president of France saying, we're out of this. We're not getting into this. And if it's so involved in terms of their demise or they're hurting them, if you being hurt and people are jumping on you and other people are in that fight, you're going to get in the fight, protect your own interests because they have a vested interest. So, I mean, believe what you see, not what you hear. But you know what bothered me more than anything? When I heard him say that it's more important to have this war than to help people with health care, to help people with these issues and things that are taking our money that away from us for things that we need for our own services to fight a war that will not benefit us in the long run, but only benefit the wealthy, the rich, the people who making the weapons, the people who selling the weapons, the people who are selling the uniforms and all these other things that to help wars continue to be a war. I mean, his gold coins and all that other stuff, the things that's going to benefit him and his family and the one percenters. This war is not for us. We're losing in this war. Financially, we're losing, and you're right, the economy is going to go up and up and up, and we will not have what we need to have, and we may end up in a recession or even back to the Great Depression if it continues to go on.
Well, we got to give Europe credit for staying out of an unwinnable war. Iran has the most difficult terrain for a ground invasion. It's an arid desert country with harsh winters and just as harsh summers. Most of the population that we're going to be fighting against are going to be living in extreme terrain up in the mountains and in small villages. And how are we going to be able to prosecute a war on those terms? I mean, look at how we left Afghanistan in embarrassing fashion with people hanging on the airplane as it took off to get out of the quagmire that we had been in Afghanistan since the early 2000s. Bishop, you just gave the perfect rationalizations that have kept Americans complacent while we have mortgaged our future to be fighting in foolhardy wars. We refused to have single-payer health care in the 1960s and the 1970s so we could prosecute Vietnam. Well, what has been the fruits of our labor in the Vietnam War? The same happened in Korea as well, and in the Gulf War with the first Bush in the early 1990s. So we are stuck in a paradigm where our exploitation is ingrained into the structure of the economy, into the structure of our politics, and we continue to buy the same lies and excuses generation after generation that keep our schools underfunded, that keep our levees and bridges unattended, that keep our aging parents without affordable health care, that keep our young people without summer jobs and internships that allow us to invest in them in their adolescence. So by the time they're young adults, they can be less reliant on student loans, and they could be working their way through college or trade school and start achieving the American dream at an earlier age. We're talking about the average American purchasing their first home now at age 35 and 40, Bishop. And so why are we so tolerant of a society that continues to overinvest in our exploiters, underinvest in us as citizens, and continue to sell us that we are doing that type of economic investment for our own good? I will always have difficulty understanding this conundrum that Americans consistently live under.
Well, for me, when I see it, when I look at it, Ron, I look at it as the rich getting richer and the poor getting poor, because it's all about them making money off of war. Billions and billions of dollars are made off of wars. Billions and billions of dollars are made off of war. Somebody's making billions of dollars right now. I mean, that's just real talk. And when you tell me that you rather invest in a war that's not going to really benefit us, right? Because you got in this war because of Iran and because of Israel. It was their fight.
That's right.
It wasn't our fight, it was their fight. And it's a holy war fight. And I think it was talked about that last week when Bishop Tate was talking about it, in terms of those people who are over there that's fighting are those people who are Europeans who came to Israel. And that's who they are. It's not the real Israelites. They come in, it's like an apartheid in their case, because they've taken over Israel. Right, the Palestinians and all those people are suffering because of those people who come in. You don't forgot about Gaza. You don't forgot about the Gaza Strip. The war they're fighting in Gaza. They still over there fighting in Gaza. They still fighting in Gaza. But you done jumped over here. Somebody said, we're in 2 wars. No, we're in 3 or 4 wars. We're in 3 or 4 wars. I mean, that's just real talk. And now we're talking about where we're going to get manpower. We're going to get young people. We're going to start the draft. It's coming. And someone said, well, they're going to start at age 42. They're going back to 42. You talking about buying a house at 35 and 40. They're going back to 42 to build, to draft young people and people into the service, both male and female. It won't be just male this time. It'll be male and female, right? So, I mean, this is real talk, brothers. This is serious. It's serious, and people need to wake up, because we are at a real war, not just a war with Iran, but we're in a war with Russia against Russia and Ukraine, with the Palestinians and Israel, with the Gaza Strip, and God knows what other wars we may be in and we don't even know that we're in. These are just wars we know that we're involved in.
What Trump, he ran on America first. And that's where even some of, I would say some independents voted for him. Wars first, America first. Let's stay out of foreign folk business. Let's not get into regime changes. And if he kept that agenda, to your question, Ron, and about the health care and all of those things, like our parents used to tell us, you can't get you can't get money from a turnip. So the money and the deficit keep going up because we're in war. So something's gonna suffer. And those people who voted for him, thinking that he would direct funds and energy for home issues, because those issues that you brought up have always been there. But he ran under the platform that, hey, I'm going to, maybe not all the ones you mentioned, but I'm going to address those issues that we've been having so many years. And I'm going to say this, and I'm step out. I have a friend who lives in Dearborn, but she lives in Detroit, and one of my coworkers, and I was so surprised that the Arabs, they endorsed him, Trump. And I called and I was having fun with him. We were going back and forth. And I said, how did Trump get Arabs to endorse him when, you had Kamala, and they have that issue with women and all of that? So she said that it came out in the papers that he had a meeting with the leadership in the Arab in Detroit, and he promised peace. That his goal would have peace between Israel and that nation and the Arab nation. So they believed him and they endorsed him. And he knows what to say, but that's not where we are.
This is the most anti-American agenda maybe in the history of our country. Bishop Rollins, you are absolutely right to bring up what Trump said in his campaign. It is the biggest smokescreen that Americans have got to wake up to, that our campaign season is very much resembling just a fake popularity contest, where if you could spout out the greatest advantages that you refuse to give to the American people once you are in office, the American people will go for it, just like a play action fake in football. The one hand, it's just sleight of hand.
Right.
And we're at the point now in which we are accepting of this level of corruption, that we anticipate our government to lie to us. We feel uncomfortable if our government actually told us the truth. So we have to look at ourselves and analyze why we are accepting this constant pattern of disinterest from our elected officials, hypocrisy on the campaign trail, and a lack of accountability once they are elected in office. And the sad reality is that we are divided as a nation, that our divisions on class, religion, race, occupation, ethnicity, language have kept us in a quagmire where we are unable as citizens to come together under the banner of our common humanity to fight for simple things like higher wages, public safety, retirement, home ownership. All of these things are going further and further by the wayside as we continue to overinvest in the war economy. So Lockheed Martin can get a greater profit margin. So Halliburton can get a greater profit margin. And the correlations between these war enterprise corporations, multinational conglomerates, and the federal government is bone chilling. It's a revolving door between these organizations, these corporations, and our top level government. Under the Bush administration, they would rotate between military industrial complex and the federal government, and it's happening right here in the Trump administration as well. But yet we still keep living as if it's business as usual. And it is going to be up to us to make that change. And it just seems as if we're going to just wait until the blood is up to our knees before we analyze that we need to do something different.
Well, what we're going to do, brothers, we're going to take a break right here. We're going to come back on the other side. We'll have more conversation.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. This puts them at increased risk for type 2 diabetes, heart attack, and kidney disease. The good news? Prediabetes can be reversed. Follow along with this 1-minute risk test to learn your risk for prediabetes. Are you over 40? That's 1 point. Over 50? That's another. Over 60? Add 1 more. If you're a man, give yourself a point. Family history of diabetes? Add a point. Have high blood pressure? Add another. Not physically active? That's a point. Are you slightly overweight? That's 1 point. Pretty overweight? That's 2. Very overweight? That's 3. A score of 5 or more means you likely have prediabetes, so talk with your doctor.
Excellent.
Well, we're back now. We're back with Ronald and Bishop. Hey, you guys, listen. You know, we got this upcoming election, right? And I want to talk about some of the races that we're looking at. You know, people are looking at the governor's race. They're looking at the U.S. Senate race. But we have lieutenant governor's race. We have state house races. We have commission races. All of these are races that are coming up. You know, most people, they vote up ballot, don't vote down ballot, and don't look at what the issues are and who they're voting for. As a previous conversation is that we're electing people based on popularity. We're basing people on who their mama is or who they know and all this other kind of stuff. But what have they done for the people? What are they doing for the least, the less, the lost, and the left out? So I want to talk a little bit about this upcoming election and some of these candidates that are running, and let's kind of do a little analyzation. And we'll start with the governor's race. You got all these people running for governor, and you know you can pick it a little on the Republican side and the Democrat side. If it wasn't so important in these elections for people, I'm just saying this because people need to understand why you got all these people running for governor. All these people running for governor. Everybody want the top seat to be the governor of the state of Georgia. Why do you think people are running for governor? I'm going to ask you, Rollins, start off with that, and why you think all these people running for governor?
Oh, wow. Well, governor is the top position in the state of Georgia. State of Georgia, we are a progressive state. We had a governor a few years ago, a couple of decades ago, who became president in Jimmy Carter. So Kemp has a national name. Purdue, he has a cabinet seat. So being the governor in the state of Georgia, I think that's a great position. This is a Republican state. We are we have Democratic senators. I think for the most part, the state has kind of stayed out of civil unrest. Now that could be policies. I'm not sure, but I know we do have the rural and the urban cities and those things. So I think the governor, instead of in a state like Georgia, with Atlanta and we're a world city, it could do a lot for their political career.
I think to build off what Bishop Rollins just communicated, we see a wide open race on both sides in the Republican primary and in the Democratic primary. It's because there's a lack of an agenda. We have a wide range of personalities who are trying to convince us that their particular brand of understanding of where Georgia is superior to their opponents. But we're seeing very little that is a debate on the issues that are impacting Georgians the most: the closing of rural hospitals, increasing the amount of minority-owned businesses that do business with the state, getting an ecological handle on the pollution that's happening and the cutting down of trees and other ecological devastations that are even occurring within the state of Georgia. We still have wage inequality in the state of Georgia. I attended the Democratic Forum in Clayton County, where 5 Democratic candidates spoke in Clayton County, to a county that's 86% African American, a near 90% black county, and not a single representative spoke to the black agenda in Clayton County. Very few of the residents. I never heard the term black or African American in 90 minutes of an all African American audience asking questions of their proposed Democratic candidates. I believe our community, and I've mentioned this on the program several weeks, that our community, the black community, is so haplessly positioned within the Democratic Party that to bring up our agenda items of criminal justice reform, of minimum wage increase and student loan forgiveness, these isolate us in the party. And when we bring it up, we get reminded so often that Democratic officials are really elected to represent the majority of the state of Georgia as opposed to one specific special interest group. Well, what a travesty of justice to continue to label African Americans, who have been the foundation of the Georgia economy going all the way back to enslavement, as some off-brand special interest group, when elevating the black agenda will elevate the agenda of every single group in the state of Georgia. Yet we continue to talk around our issues. We continue to subvert our issues in some generic political speak instead of getting our hands into the mud of what needs to happen in terms of school reform. Our schools are overcrowded and underfunded. We continue to teach curriculums that have our young people spinning their heels in terms of understanding their identity and how they can answer questions successfully of who am I and how I belong. We have long disinvested in our young people outside of the academic school year. Very little summer jobs, very little summer internships. And the travesty of young people is that they don't vote, that the only way you can deal with youth issues is to connect through the parents, and many of our parents are overworked and underpaid. So they have impediments in their everyday life for getting out to these political rallies and attending the conversations, because these political conversations are happening Monday through Friday during the work day or right after the work day ends, when many of our everyday citizens are stuck in rush hour or trying to get dinner on the table and do the things functionally to keep their lives going. So where are we going to build the action programs that make voting more accessible for our population? When are we going to start taking the vote to the community instead of always beating the head of the community and say you have to come out and vote. When the Republicans were successful in changing the voter laws in 2020, that now you can't even hand out a cup of water. You can't wait with somebody. You have to stay in the line the entire time until you are able to vote. These things are very relevant in making voting any type impediment or additional administrative barrier that you can add to voting, which Trump is trying to do with his Save America Act. You can reduce the voting population by 6%, 8%, 3%. And these little micro deductions greatly increase Republican chances of keeping power. They've already redistricted areas of the country. In Texas, the Democrats tried to mirror that in California and New York. But we see at the state level, Republicans control a lot more state houses in this country than do the Democrats. So we have to execute a new agenda and have a radical different view of voting that stop us from beating on the head the citizens who are having every imaginable impediment to voting. And then we also send the citizens to the polls without explaining to them an agenda. We rarely see Democratic candidates for governor connecting with the insurance commissioner, with county commissioners, and say, if you elect me as your governor, I need these down ballot representatives to also be elected so we can get through an entire agenda. The governor does not work unilaterally in the Georgia government, neither does the General Assembly. So we need Democrat, if we're gonna vote Democratic as a community, we need Democratic candidates to better align themselves at the levels of the top, as you mentioned, Bishop, and then those down ballot races that seem to be so ignored because we seem to lack the intelligence to have a unified agenda that lets us know that when you vote for your county commissioner, this county commissioner, you're voting for me as governor. When you vote for this tax assessor and this sheriff, you're voting for me as governor. We need to get that type of voting program to our people.
You know, you said a lot. You said a lot. I mean, you said a lot. Someone and I talked today, I'm neither Democrat nor Republican, but the Democratic Party has done a disservice to the black community because more black people vote Democrats than even the white folks. And so but we don't get anything out of the party. We don't get anything out of the party. There is no agenda to benefit black people in the party or the black community in the party. There's no real agenda. They're supporting either candidates that they like or they, that someone said, we're going to put money in this candidate. Just take the last race when we talked about the presidential race and when Kamala was running. That the monies from the Democratic Party did not even come down to the black community to be able to turn out the vote for her to win. I'm just being honest with you because when we just talking about voting now and voting in general and strategies and stuff in terms of agenda. But then the bigger question is, what are we asking for? What are we demanding as a black community? What are we demanding? What are we asking for? We're just taking the crumb from the rich man's table because we're not asking for anything. And then when there are those who are asking, then other people are like, no, don't do that. Don't say that. We can't do that. We can't say that. But we'll never get unless we open our mouth. A closed mouth will never be fed. I appreciate what you said, Ron, because see, because you got people now, you got Burt Jones and you got Jackson fighting. You got on the Republican side, they're fighting. Carr is trying to get in there. Rosenberg is trying to get in there, but because they can buy and spend billions and millions of dollars for TV advertisement, and a lot of people gonna go vote based on what they say and try to figure out which is the best of the two evils. We got to stop talking about, well, we're gonna elect the best of the two evils. The best of the two evil is evil. Ain't no best of no two evil. Evil is evil. See, we got all these saying, well, I'm going to vote for the best of the two evils. No, we got to demand certain things. We got to demand people to really represent us. I personally am sick and tired of people bragging about we got the biggest black caucus in the country here in Georgia and can't get nothing done. Nothing done but excuses. My band teacher, the late Bobby Jordan, told me this story. He told me this, made me understand something. I was in the band and I played in the marching band, but I was a senior. And this time we had to play at a game or something, and he would allow girls to sit next to us in the band. So this particular day, I said, I'm not going. I'm not going to play. I'm going to go and, not go to the game and not play. I'm going to go sit with this girl. So I went to him and said, Mr. Jordan, I'm not going to play today. He said, Mr. Fans, excuse or not excuse, get in there and get in that uniform and hit that field. So excuses will not excuse the excuser. We making all of these excuses as to why not, why we can't, why we won't do it, or what this or what. Because see, if you're scared, you ain't gonna never get nowhere. If you're scared, you ain't. And that Turner and all Sojourner the Truth, all those people who were fighting for freedom, they wasn't scared. They knew the penalty. They knew what they were up against, but they stood in the fight and they fought and they fought and they fought, even though they may have lost their lives, even though they may have lost some things, but they were looking out for the people, the least, the less, the lost, and the left out. Brothers and sisters, we better wake up, because you talk about we progressive. Georgia is not progressive in no way, no how. It is not progressive in no way, no how. Not for us, it's not. Not for us. Why are they trying to take now? They're trying to take Clayton County. They're trying to take Fulton County, DeKalb County, and stifle the votes, because they're all black counties, majority black counties. Wherever majority black counties, they try to do everything to stop black folk from voting. Everything. Yeah, they're gonna hurt some of them in it. Some of them are gonna be hurt, but never not as much as we're gonna be hurt. We're going to be hurt. And if we lose our right to vote, if we lose the privilege to vote, if we do not vote, we will lose everything. If we don't vote right, we're going to mess up and we're going to lose. And our children are going to look back and they're going to say, what happened? What happened? Because they're going to look at us because you all had it and then you lost it. Because why? To your point, we're running behind certain people who scared to talk, won't talk, and ain't gonna do nothing, and then tell you to vote for them. Vote for me. Vote for me. They're gonna tell you what they're gonna do, but when they get there, they don't do nothing, but then they'll turn around. We can't do this. We can't do that. I told you in one of the previous programs, there was one young lady that I really admired to today. Her name is LaDawn Beckett Jones. LaDawn Beckett Jones. When LaDawn ran for that seat that Joe Hexall left, Joe Hexall retired, she ran for that seat and she won it. LaDawn got in there one turn. They wouldn't let her do stuff. She couldn't do stuff and people weren't working with her. The Democrats weren't working with her. She said, I'm not running anymore. She left. She left because she knew that it was for naught. I can do more out here than I can in there. I mean, because these people they're not working for us. They're not working for us. They talk that talk, but they don't walk that walk.
And Bishop, we have to accept that reality as a voting population. And I am tired of the lazy response that if you accept that the top 1% is dominating our state house and dominating the federal government, then that means you should stop voting. What a ridiculous and lazy assertion. What we do need to do is to get back into our communities, come back and reinvest in our churches, reinvest in our private organizations and civil societies. And because even if churches and other private organizations legally are barred from endorsing specific candidates, they can endorse specific issues. It is a very simple act for ministers to come together and compare platforms of these different candidates and tell the community, well, if you want to vote for health care, if that's your major issue, we've looked at the campaigns of these 7 candidates. This is your health care guy. If you want, or health care girl, if you want school reform, this is the candidate that has the most progressive school reform policies. If you want criminal justice reform, then look at these 2 or 3 candidates, because these are your best bets for criminal justice reform. But our organizations are so lazy and so reliant on the fact that 501c3 certification from the government has completely neutered your political voice. That is a lie. You don't have to go out here and represent individual candidates and endorse individual candidates with your organization, but you can endorse issues. You can say we're highlighting criminal justice reform, home ownership. We're highlighting wage disparity. And if you care about these issues, look at these candidates. And we have yet to have consistent organizations in our community at least do that.
Well, go on tape. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
No,
That's okay. Well, what I'm hearing that we have identified a lot of issues, but I'm more interested in hearing what are some of the solutions. So we say that candidates aren't in tune to our community. What do our community want? And once we do that, let's talk about how to advance. Because if we've done the same thing and we see that there's an issue, then we need to at least give ideas as to how to resolve those issues. As I said last week, and we say it right now, you got to vote for somebody. Because a non-vote is a vote for another candidate. And did that candidate address your issues? I don't know. So I would like to just hear some solutions. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm interested in.
One, I do want to say we got to reinvest in our institutions. That we need to see our churches and HBCUs open their doors and become locations where we can come in and be in touch with the power of the Black electorate. We can do an easy application of our voting density in different counties and say, in this county with the voting density that we have, we are more than likely able to endorse and elect this type of candidate. And then we can begin to map out strategically where we can run different type of candidates to meet the needs of our community. But it will take a concerted effort to be active in the community, even beyond just the election season, that we at some point are going to have to reinvest in our political infrastructure. Yes, we know how to party. We invest in our homecomings. We invest in our Founders Days for our churches and ministries. We invest in our pastors' appreciations, and we should invest in those things. But at the same time we're investing in those things, we should be investing in political mobilization services. We should be invested in economic empowerment services. Come to church today on this 5th Sunday and learn how you can grow your income by 5 and 10% if you take these micro accreditations, if you get connected with the local community college that is offering this program. There are tons of services and opportunities in the status quo if our ministers and church leaders and faith leaders reassert themselves and make their organizations touch points in the community where you can go and learn about your local candidates. If you want to learn about local candidates here in Atlanta, where are you going to go? To the IBEW building? Is that accessible for 95% of the Black community here in the metro Atlanta area? We need to disperse political centers into community spaces so that we have a greater access to the information that makes voting easy, that makes voting connectable to the issues that we talk about around our dinner tables and in our barbershops and beauty salons. So we need to use these spaces in the community to be local touch points where people can go and get this information instead of just having a local political rally Tuesday at 3 o'clock while everybody working, and when nobody show up, we say the community dead. The community don't care about voting. That is a very lazy assumption right there.
Okay, Bishop, if you want to jump in, because I want to say something.
No, go ahead on. You go ahead on. You go ahead on.
Okay, see, now I think we're putting a lot of attention to churches. I mean, this just in this discord right here. A lot of our churches are small, and I'm not alibi for them. A lot of churches have financial problems themselves. And a lot of our leaders need wealth building seminars themselves. So it's hard for me to feed you when I don't know how to feed you. It's hard to do that. So I agree when it comes to when the establishment, because I don't want to say black and white, because there are some African Americans who are part of the establishment. So when the leading party, when they move the goalposts, I think we ought to, as a community, understand these are the rules now. And let's figure out how to play with those rules. Sure, someone goes to court and they're challenging it. As we talk about the SAVE Act, that's what we were getting into. And there are some requirements in there. There's IDs and all of these different things. So when we have issues with the SAVE Act, and it's probably going to pass because the Republicans are there. And whether or not we want them there or not, but they're there. So now let's figure out what's in the SAVE Act, and let's figure out right now so I will be available to vote. Who is it targeting? So we just talked about 5 counties that Bishop Fan mentioned. Somewhere, somehow, the Democratic or the minority party, someone should get in those leaderships and say, hey, these are the areas in the SAVE Act that we need to address because we aren't going to change it. So if we need ID, if grandma and grandpa need some type of ID and they don't have a driver's license, let's figure this out now. And let's get them what they need. If they need birth certificates, let's figure out who needs birth certificates. I'm going to get your granddaughter in this meeting. So you go and take care of this. And even when they change the rules for water and things like that, let's make sure you have water before you get in the line. See, we can't change the rules by complaining about the rules. And we don't have enough voting access or voting capital. We can't change it. But let's not get out of it. Let's figure out what do we need to do once they move the goalposts.
I love it.
And I think that's where our energy needs to be, because the courts are there. Let somebody else fight that battle. But let's figure out what we can do, because we know right now something may change come October. They're trying to move the goalposts. So let's figure it out. What can we do so we'll be eligible to vote?
Let me say,
You dropped off, Bishop.
Yeah. No, sir, I'm coming, Bishop.
Let me just say this. Let me say this. I know you guys can hear me now. I know you can hear me now. I had to. I got something I'm working on over here, trying to make it work, and it continues to don't want to work. Mr. Producer, it continues to don't want to work. But listen, I appreciate what you just said. I really do, because it leads me into this thing with the contesting of a vote, the contesting of a vote. And with all the things that's going on, not only in Georgia, but other states too, that the president is trying to get their ballots. So when he gets those ballots, he knows who is a regular voter, right? He knows who regularly votes. So, and he knows that the larger percent in Fulton County, Clayton County, and DeKalb County are majority blacks and Democrat voters. He understands that. They know that. So what they do, what happens is now they say, well, we're going to contest the votes of Greg Phan. We're going to contest Greg Phan as whether or not he's a citizen, whether or not he lives where he say he lives, whatever. We're going to contest him. Well, Greg Phan goes to vote on election day. Or Greg Phan goes to vote early voting. And they tell me, well, your vote is being contested. What is it that I'm going to need to prove that I am who I say I am, that I live where I say I live, that I was born when I said I was born? Where is that information at? What I'm going to say, and you just said something I think that is very clear, that I think that people who are going to be voting, because if you go and they say you can test it, well, who's going to go try to find that birth certificate? Who's going to go to find, bring a power bill or a rent bill or whatever to say this is where I live? Who's going to do all of that? But to your point, people need to be prepared to have that information on election day, early voting day. They're going to need to be prepared to have not just a driver license, but your proof of residence, your birthday, your passport, all the things they say they want to put in the SAVE Act. You need to start having that stuff even for your November election, because you do not know if your name is down as being contested. Now you'll find out, the trial is this early voting for the primary, but you'll find out. And we need to find out what will be needed if your vote is contested.
Now, now what I do agree, I think, to your point, Bishop, those Democratic candidates, before they say anything, whether it's not in front of one person or 5,000, please, when you go to vote, have those things that Bishop Phan just mentioned, have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Please take those with you. I don't care who you vote for. I want you to vote Democratic. I'm just saying if I'm a candidate. But if you don't vote for me, I want your vote to count. And then before I get into my spiel, I've said that first. And I think that's something that the Democratic Party can do as a body, let's make sure that our people, once they get to the poll, they won't be turned away, even if they're not voting for me.
Let me lift that up. I totally agree with you. I think that is a service the Democratic Party should be embarrassed that they've yet to provide the African American community, as we vote more Democratic than any other racial group in this country is voting for any other political party. And we are beating that mark by 2 or 3 times. It's not just one time. But like I said, we were 85% Democratic in the last federal election in 2024. No other racial group was over 55% for any. Maybe white men were 57%, close to 60% for Trump. But think about that. We outvoted white men for Trump in what we voted for Kamala and the Democratic Party. And consistently, our issues make up less than 85% of the Democratic agenda. And I want to highlight this real quick, and then I'll, close my mouth. I highlight churches so much and faith centers. And I understand why churches and ministers can oftentimes feel beat up on or always brought up when we talk about issues in the community. But that's because these organizations live in the community. When we talk about the African American community, particularly below the top 1% and the top 10% of the African American community, because we know there are communities in Atlanta where, black people have the BMWs, they have the 2- and 3-story houses, they're going to be able to get to their polling places. But there are a lot of places in Atlanta where transportation is an issue, where knowledge of where your polling precinct is an issue. And the only organization existing in those communities are churches. And so how are we going to tell that population of African Americans to wait in a 4-hour voter line, take a day off to go vote, and we have failed to give that family an agenda that can help them, a standard that will make their vote easier for them? And if a lot of smaller black preachers are having issues providing those services individually, well, that should be their motivation to come together. Nearly every county in Georgia has a ministerial alliance. I'm organizing an event for tomorrow, and I've been able to connect with a lot of ministers by going to the Clayton County Ministerial Alliance, the Concerned Black Clergy, the DeKalb County Ministerial Alliance. So we have an infrastructure that currently exists where ministers in every county have aligned themselves into organizations so that we can facilitate and filter information and resources from larger organizations that may be centralized in downtown or above I-20, that information can then filter into the crevices of our communities in North Atlanta, South Atlanta, and the surrounding metro Atlanta suburbs and counties. So we need to now reinvigorate those networks and demand and give further assistance to those networks so the local minister can be an advocate. Because if these ministries, even at the small community level, if they still demand 10% of the wages of underpaid black Atlantans to fund the church, to fund the work of the Lord, then these industries and institutions also need to give back to those communities, because I've yet to hear a small preacher say to his or her congregation, because we're so small, I release you from paying that 10%.
Well,
Hey, listen, guys, listen. We can go on and on with this, but I want to tell you like this. Listen, this ain't nothing but straight talk, and we're gonna have nothing but straight. We're gonna come back and pick up some more of this stuff next week. And of course, I hear your point, Bishop Tate. I hear Ron's point, but I want to just say to those who are listening, we have different opinion about different things. But that's what makes the world go round. But the way that we've gotten to where we are is that some people have bought into the message of what we're talking about, and some, as Ron has said, lazy. Some are complacent. They just feel like I don't have enough. See, what about me? This is me. I don't believe in the word little or small. I don't believe in that. That's negative. And we as black people, we have relegated ourselves. I can't do nothing because I'm too little or I'm too small. That's negative thinking. That's negative. But we believe in Christ. If we believe in Christ, he said, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. So we have to remove away from the negative thinking and put our hand to the gospel, apply, and do whatever little you can do wherever you are. Whatever you can do, I use the word little, but whatever you can do whatever you can do wherever you are. Because everybody can do something. Everybody can do something. If they ain't doing nothing but telling your next of kin or telling your neighbor or telling somebody, we all can help educate one another. To your point, Bishop Tate, to your point is that as we are doing this and we're talking to people, you know, the more we talk to people, the more people understand and the more people get it. We are in an age of rapid, instant communication through the cell phone. I mean, just the cell phone. Instant communication. We can do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to educate our people on voting. We're going to educate our people on what they need to do when they go to vote. We can't depend on the Democratic Party. The black preachers didn't depend on no Democratic Party when we went back in civil. They didn't depend on the party. They got the message out, and we can still get the message out. We just have to each one teach one, each one share with one. And we're going to do that, to your point. That's how we're going to get it. We're going to work together, and we're going to make it happen. It ain't no big eyes and little you. It's about us doing this. And we're not trying to down anybody or look down on anybody. because whatever you can do whatever you can do the best that you can, because that's all that he asked for. See, if when we give the best of our service, he's going to say, well done, well done. So God bless you all. Listen, this ain't nothing but straight talk with yours truly, Greg Fan, the Preacher Man, along with Ronald Allen and Bishop Rollin Tate. We'll see you next week right here on Straight Talk.
Want to be a guest on Straight Talk? Email Greg Fan at FANN922@Comcast.net or call 404-308-0795. Join us again for another episode of Straight Talk with Shannon Jones and Greg Fan, the Preacher Man.